Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
The father of personal development, Jim Rohn, said it best. You are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And so I've created a mastermind community called the Lion's Den around this idea that if you are surrounded by high-performing people and you have consistent education and training, then you will succeed in life and as a man. Check out kfmlion.com to learn how the Lion's Den can take your life, relationships, and business to the next level. Again, that's kfmlion.com. All right, guys, if you thought the show Survivor was tough, then you're going to love my guest today, Mark Palm. He left a career as a commercial pilot to start a charity, and he puts his life on the line flying emergency flights in the treacherous jungles of Papua New Guinea. All right, Mark, you got a story here, so let's dive in. Happy to have you here on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Glad to be here.
All right, Mark. And so let's just kickstart the show off with some sort of saying that you've lived by or even a success quote. So share with us what you got and what that means to you.
One is surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I live life by the idea of putting others ahead of yourself and loving your neighbor as yourself, which is something that Jesus said. And that's really kind of where it all starts for me. Yeah.
Like surrounding yourself with smarter people and doing those things. How does this relate to your story? You in the jungle, deep into the jungle.
Yeah, well, I think both of those things. I think for me, I give a lot of credit to mentors that I've had over the years to where I am today and what I've been able to accomplish. And then I think the other is I wouldn't be in Papua New Guinea if I didn't feel like that I needed to serve the people that are there and make a difference. So I think those both go hand in hand.
Yeah, let's go into that. You had a professional career as a commercial pilot, and you decided to take this leap. I'm interested in this story, so share with us how you got started with what you do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I am a commercial pilot, but I never actually really got into working for an airline or anything. Basically, this story actually started when I was 16 years old, and during that time of my life, I was planning on being a commercial pilot or a military pilot, and aviation runs in my family. So I kind of grew up with that part of my DNA, I guess you could say, and that was my plan. And then, as a 13-year-old, I moved to Santa Cruz, California with my family, and my father ran a homeless mission there. And, I had a chance to serve people and feed people and help clothe people that were going through very difficult times in life. And then as a 16-year-old, I had a chance to go down with my church youth group. We went down to Mexico to build houses for those who didn't have anything. And, to be able to go into a place where people are living on, cardboard boxes and struggling just to have a roof over their head, and to be able to go down and make a difference that way in a tangible way, I think for me was really life-changing. And during that time, I had some kind of call it just a moment there where I felt, God speak to me, and it really changed my life. And I just felt like my calling was to use my passion for people and for flying to help change lives in a remote part of the world. And so that was kind of the beginning for me, and changed my life. And then as a 19-year-old, I had the opportunity to go to Papua New Guinea in 1994 and see the needs over there and the challenges, and that's really where the idea of bringing a float plane and moving across the world and doing this work all began.
So share with us more about what you saw when you first went to Papua New Guinea. What was it? Was there just were people starving? Was there just lack of economics or just lack of healthcare? What was it like when you first got there?
The obvious one is lack of access, to anything. And a big one is obviously medical work and attention. I mean, I remember staying on this island, and we just had an opportunity to go on an island, live with the people, and spearfish with them, and live life in the hut with them, and just kind of see what is it like to live over here in this remote area. And one of the things that came on that trip, I remember they brought this little boy to us, and he had this tropical ulcer that had come out of a small cut in his leg, and it was growing and almost covering his whole lower leg. And the idea that a small cut could turn into something that was potentially, for this little kid, who was going to lose his leg. And, we had a couple $2 worth of medical supplies, and we're able to bandage him up and, put some Neosporin and some things on. And but just that moment was like, wow, it's those simple things. In America, we don't think of anything if we get a cut on our leg or something. And but over in that area, when you're in that hot tropical environment and you don't have medical help, little things turn into tragic things. And just seeing that struggle, and then also on the just seeing their view of God and ancestors and kind of how they looked at life. I mean, those two things really impacted me, and just felt like that was a place that I needed to go.
Wow. So that's big. I think Neosporin saved that kid's leg. Something that I could go to the store right now. I could walk a block and buy it. Cost probably $3.50, and that saved his leg. But over there, that's something like this massive thing over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you realize the demographic. People don't realize New Guinea is the second largest island in the world, and half of it's Papua New Guinea, and there's 7 million people that live in this area. And in the area that we work in the East Sepik Province, there's 500,000 people that live there, and 200,000 of those people in this area live on this large 700-mile river. And 80% of those people are 3 to 5 days, up to 7 days away from the only hospital. And I think, when you think of Neosporin and how do you get that, when you're 7 days away, and just the access and getting medical supplies, all of those things are just major obstacles for them.
Yeah. I'm on my computer right now, obviously doing this interview. And so I'm looking at Papua New Guinea. It looks very tribal. Are these pictures accurate? Like, it looks like, what year would you say that people are living in this area?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it depends on how far you go out. But most of the place I work in, I mean, there's no electricity. There's no running water. It's people dig holes for their toilets. It's as rough as it gets. They're carving out canoes with stone axes still, and things like that. And so it's I don't know what year you'd put on it, but it's definitely not the life we have here in America.
Yeah. Do you show up with a smartphone, and are they freaking out?
I mean, yeah, I definitely have the nicest phone around for sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's interesting, as society catches up, it's, with wireless technology, they've started putting these remote wireless towers in, and in some of the areas along the river there. I mean, I'll see this kid that's basically, naked on his canoe that he carved out with a stone axe, and he has a cell phone around his neck.
Oh my gosh.
It's just that kind of a weird moment when you look at that, and you're, as he cruises up to his grass hut, and it's hard to wrap your head around it all sometimes, but that's the reality of life over there.
Yeah, that would be interesting if he was taking like a selfie, like uploading his Instagram account or something. He's like, oh, I just made a boat. So, I'm thinking they must view you like you're Iron Man. Like, you've just got all these gadgets. You come over, you just got all these things that you're bringing to them. What's the day in the life like for you when you're there? Starting from like the morning, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it varies, emergencies aren't planned. And so I can get 3 calls in a day for 3 different emergency flights. I also maintain the airplane. I'm an aircraft engineer as well. So some days I have to fix the airplane. Other days I'm working with government officials to work on fundraising, working with the doctors, medicine deliveries, flying medical teams out, vaccines. I mean, it's different every day, and there's no way to to make your schedule, so to speak. It changes on a moment's notice.
Yeah, this is a lot. It's a massive lifestyle change, and it seems like you're really doing this to help other people. How long have you been doing this?
I started the organization in 2000, and it took us 10 years to raise the money and get people to support the idea of taking a float plane. It's the only plane lands on the water over there. And so it was a lot of work. You talk about trying to convince people of a dream that they want to, give their money to. It's not an easy task, and especially when you start talking about a country that's 10,000 miles away. So it took a long time, many trips back and forth, working with the government, just developing relationships. And then finally in 2010, my wife, Kirsten, and my 3 kids and myself moved over there full time in January 2010, and packed up the container the plane in a container the month before, and then I put it together in the capital and flew it into the town we live in.
Yeah, I got it. So you raise a lot of money, and you said you're working with government officials. So is that in Papua New Guinea, or is this with Australia?
Yeah, Papua New Guinea. I mean, we've been blessed. The government over there, funds half of our operating costs now. The other half we raise here in America, and we also just purchased a second float plane for New Guinea, and the government paid for half of that as well. So it's an amazing partnership we have with the government there, as they see the needs being met by what we're doing, and they support that.
Yeah. So 10 years in the making here, you're going back and forth, working with government officials. Why do you do it? Why do you continue to put in the work?
Yeah, it goes back really to that call that I mentioned as a 16-year-old, and my belief in God, and that He has a plan for me, and that or all of us, and that we're here to make a difference. And I think that's what keeps me going. And I think when those 10 years, that was a long 10 years, I'll be honest, but I'll never forget the first emergency flight that we had, and it was on Good Friday of 2010, and I got this call, and it was this mother who was unconscious and had a breech birth, and they said, "Can you help?" And I remember getting that first call, and I was just nervous and excited, and the weather was bad. Always seems to happen that way. But getting out there, we made it out, picked up this lady, Antonia was her name, and rushed her in. Days by boat, 25-minute flight basically. Got her in to the hospital, and came back the next day, and she was alive, and her baby boy was alive, and they named him Mark after me, and just that moment, I'll never forget that. And I'm kind of lucky, a lot of people do work in different areas and don't have the opportunity to see that result right in front of them, but we have that ability to see that right there, and you see a life that's saved, and that was worth it all right there.
Wow. What I'm wondering is, when you have this drive to really make a difference and do something, like make change in this area, is that what just gets you going, gets you up, waking up early, not getting good sleep, putting up with the harsh weather, sacrifice from yourself, from what you could be doing in a Western world where you could be making more money or doing something like that? Is it this difference that drives you, such as that story you just shared?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, I just, for whatever reason, it makes sense to me that what I, with what I do with my life, and I'm more excited about what I do now than I've ever been, and I think that's the sign of a true calling, I guess. The needs are so great out there, and there's needs everywhere, but in this particular area of the world, it's crazy needs. And when you see the need and you realize that you're only reaching a small section, there's more we can do, and I think that's what keeps me going, and that's what I'm excited about, adding a second airplane. And we added 2 staff families over there this year, and we've got 2 more on their way, and those are the things that now that keep me up late at night and getting up early in the morning.
Yeah. This is good. And I think that's what just more people need is having that feeling like they're making a difference. They're living on purpose. Like there's a reason for what they're doing when they wake up, and they're not just waking up and it's like Groundhog Day. How do you feel just in general? Do you feel more alive when you're doing this work versus, let's say, when you were flying planes commercially?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you serve others, it's like giving presents to others, or seeing your kid, have a great birthday party or whatever. I mean, that makes you feel good. When you give money to a homeless person on the street, or you're able to help anybody, help an older person, move in or move something, or open the door for somebody. I mean, all of those things, I think, give us enjoyment. And I think for me, that's really where it's at. And I think, my challenge to people here, I'll be honest, I struggle a bit. I come back to America every couple of years, and just hearing the things that people are so upset over, they seem so trivial sometimes when you're in these life and death situations on a regular basis, and people are dying, all around you from different things. And, the idea of what's important in life, or what there is things to be upset about, or whatever it is, I find that people seem to get upset about the little things here. But my passion is to try to inspire people to look around them and say, man, what can I do to help out? There's needs all over the place. If we could just look beyond ourselves, we would see that there's needs right in front of us here in the States, or wherever we live.
Yeah. And you're so right. People can be upset that, your Wi-Fi is not fast enough. Or right? It's like, oh, my picture's not uploading. And you come back and see something like that, or puts things in a perspective. Do you feel like you live a much more simpler life after having spent so much time in the jungle?
I don't know if our life is more simple. In some ways, it's more complicated when you add, a different culture, learning languages, dealing with, unknowns. One of the things when you have kids, and you think about the closest evacuation plane to come and get you is going to take over a day, and so you deal with different things from that perspective, I think. But from a idea of what you get frustrated about and things like that, I think we've learned to we call it being fluid, but we've learned to just live our life and not try to get too worked up over things you can't control. And I think that's been helpful too. Yeah, I like that. Really, just kind of acceptance of where you're at. That's what I'm getting. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can get frustrated, like you said, about Wi-Fi or other things in life, but the reality is if you can't control it, it's probably better just to let it go and just adapt. And that's kind of, I think, how we've learned to live our lives. Yeah, I can see that. Really helping you focus on what really matters in your life as well. Absolutely. Now, let's go into a part of the show I call the knowledge round. Just going to ask you some rapid fire questions here, bring out some more invaluable nuggets for the audience. So are you ready for the knowledge round, Mark? Sure. Do you feel stuck, alone, or like you're not getting the type of results you think you deserve? You put in all the hard work in your life, relationships, and business, but things just aren't getting any better? I've been there. That's how I started. That's where I was. I kept trying to improve my life, but nothing just seemed to give. I started to think that personal development was a joke. I felt like every month I was in the same place I was the previous month. But then I found something that just worked. I grew, my business grew, my relationships flourished, and everything around me just started to click. People started respecting me more, and I finally felt like I was becoming the man I wanted to be. I created a program to help guys get the same results in their life. Check out kfmline.com to learn how the Lion's Den can radically transform your life. Again, that's kfmline.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right, so I love the sense of purpose and just the direction that you're in, and I feel like that really drives you to keep going, even when it gets really tough. What advice would you give to someone who doesn't have that and is lacking that? And is really searching? Yeah, for me, it's being involved in something bigger than myself. I think for me that starts with my relationship with Christ, and that's where I've felt the call, and that's really what I live by. And I think as I look back at my life and all the things that have happened to get a float plane and have this dream and work all those years to move over there, and there's so many instances where I could say, look, I didn't do that, or I couldn't even take credit for that. And so I think, to me, that's exciting to be part of something that's bigger than yourself, and I would encourage people to look there.
I like that. And so, Mark, what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
That's an interesting question. I think we all hold ourselves back sometimes, whether it's pride or whether it's not seeing things or not listening. I think for me, it's so important to listen to those who have been there before you. I made sure I had a mentor from about 20 years old on, and that was something that was invaluable to me. And I would encourage people, find someone that's been successful in whatever, if it's an area that you're passionate about, or just, man, if you can find anyone that's been successful in anything and find out what got them there and what are they doing in their lives, whether it's disciplining themselves to study or whatever it is, constantly learning. I think that's the other thing is constantly reading and trying to learn new things.
Yeah, I like that. And you mentioned mentors. Can you mention a mentor that you've had on your journey and how they've impacted you?
Yeah, as a 20-year-old, I had a guy that his name was Pat, and this guy took his time. We'd meet once a month, and we lived a couple hours apart, and he would drive down, and we would just sit for several hours and just talk about life, where I was at in life, where my goals were. For me, how my marriage was doing as a newly married guy, and just all of those things, and just talking with him about, how was he successful in raising his kids to be, his kids have turned out good, and how did that work out, and what are the things he did to have a successful marriage, successful business. And I think just, learning from that and seeing that and then applying it to my life, I think, one of the things I strive to do now is really to find those moments with really successful people, and whether they're CEO of large corporations or whatever, anywhere I see someone who's successful, and really just kind of pick their brain and say, hey, what was your most fulfilling thing in life, and what drives you, and kind of, really, it just inspires me to be better and to continue to better myself.
Yeah, and on this path, I'm sure you've come across quite a few books that have helped you on your journey. What would you say are 2 or 3 of your most influential books, and why?
Yeah, well, obviously I'd start with the Bible. I think that has definitely, changed my life, and something I strive to read even daily, and to continue to learn more, and I think another book was what I read as a younger guy was called The Purpose-Driven Life, and that was a book that really just talked about why you're here and what are you doing, with yourself and what's important. And I continue to read books about other cultures, and Spirit of the Rainforest actually is another book that made a big impact on me, which is an interesting read about kind of people in South America that kind of went into a culture, and it's kind of from the eyes of a witch doctor, and kind of how it looked when there was anthropologists coming in versus missionaries versus other people, and kind of how all from his eyes and from his culture. Anyway, that was a book that really made a major impact on my life.
Wow, it looks like an interesting book. I'll have to check that out. And so this next one's kind of more of a scenario, Mark. So imagine if you had 60 seconds with 20-year-old Mark, and you got to sit down and talk to him and tell him something. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Wow, that's interesting. I would tell him to stay steady. I think that's, for me, that's kind of the mantra of my life, as it took all those years to finally get over to fulfill the goal that I had. And what I would tell him to do is probably just continually educate himself even more, to learn more, and just to respond. I think, for me, even whether it's marriage or other things or interpersonal relationships, I think, kind of getting over yourself a little bit. And, I think I had a little bit of pride as a young guy, and too much, and I think that just being able to look beyond myself more, as well as I took advice from others, I think that would be something I would say.
Yeah, I like that, letting that soak in. What do you think is an underrated characteristic that you believe every man should work on?
Yeah, I think being consistent, and making sure your word means something. I think it's interesting is, everybody always, I get that as a kid, they don't make them like they used to, or these kids these days or whatever. And I heard that about my generation. But I think, I'm 40 now, and my kids I got a teenage daughter and a couple other boys, and they're growing up. And I think, just you see it a lot, and it seems like I see it now, and I just notice it. But people just don't seem to have that loyalty to their friends, and kind of that when they say something, they're going to follow through. And people will give you let's get together, or let's this or that. But it's a lot of talk, and I think I would just encourage people to really if they're going to say something, people need to know that you mean it and that you're going to follow through on it, whatever you say.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a good one. And so now, Mark, even if you have to summarize some of your main points, completely fine. What would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
Yeah, I think it starts with being part of something that's bigger than yourself and serving others ultimately. And I think for me, if I can do that all the time, days of my life here on earth, that I'll be fulfilled, at the end.
I like that. That's good. I think that really resonates with a lot of my listeners. Now, what's exciting you today? What's next? What do you see as kind of the future? What's going forward 2016 with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier the second airplane. We were able to buy a new, it's a 1981, another Cessna 206 amphibious float plane for our work there. And, one of the frustrations I've had is with one airplane over there these past, almost 6 years, and every time I do an inspection or I need a part from America, and it takes 2 weeks, and the plane's down. And I remember earlier this year, we had an inspection on our plane there, and, I had to turn down 18 emergency calls while I'm waiting for aircraft parts. And so, having this second airplane is just really going to open doors to do more community education in the villages, flying teams of educators and medical personnel, and then also having a plane on standby for emergencies 7 days a week. And so, to me, that really excites me. And I flew the plane up to Kelso, Washington from San Diego a couple weeks ago, and they're doing some last inspections, and they're going to containerize the plane here next month and ship it over. And I can't wait to get back there. Our family's heading back in December there, and to be able to bring this new plane online this year. And that's really super exciting for me right now.
Yeah, that's big. And so for listeners who want to support you, how can they follow you or even donate to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, we have Samaritan Aviation it's on Facebook. We're also on the website, samaviation.com. And, we're kind of doing a couple things right now. One of the, we're doing a crowd riser that we're getting ready to launch here in the next week. And it's really about, we call it Fuel for Life. And we fly around 350 hours a year. And each hour costs about $200 US in fuel. And so right now we're challenging people to get involved and do some to help us with that, and say, hey, I want to help with 1 hour of fuel, or half an hour of fuel, or 5 hours of fuel, or hey, I want to get my friends involved, and we're going to raise money to do 5-10 hours of fuel, and we're trying to raise around $70,000 US to help fund the fueling for the planes this next year. And we're also just looking for people to get on board monthly. It's not cheap to run an aviation organization, and we're trying to raise our monthly income by $5,000 right now to help offset some of the costs for the new aircraft. And so we're inviting people to partner with us. You can do it online, $10, $20, $50 a month, and just be part of the team.
What's the URL that they can? Is it Facebook or?
Yeah, it's www.samaviation.com.
Okay, there it is.
And you can get us at Facebook as well as Samaritan Aviation.
All right, there it is. Well, I'm going to go ahead and submit some money there. I want to support that cause. And this has been a really good interview, and I think it's a different take from what's regular on the show. But I love what you're doing, want to support. I know that you dropped some really good nuggets for my listeners here today.
Well, thanks for having me, Andrew. It's an honor to be on your program.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.